Hi folks, Lou here, and I'm going to talk about what you need if your game is going to have a you go, I go by individual unit in a tabletop game or a computer game. Why would you want to do it that way instead of the older way of one player moves everything and then the other player moves everything? Because then there's no downtime. Because players are always in the game except when a turn ends and then they can both relax. So to me, it's a superior way to do things if you can arrange it. But in order to arrange it, you have to do certain things. For example, you cannot have very many units because otherwise it's too difficult to keep track of unless you're using a computer. But even then, if you have a lot of units on a side, 40 or 50, for example, it's going to take an awful long time to move all those one at a time. And the game is going to last quite a long time unless there are very few turns. Another thing you need is to not have stacks of units, because you need to be able to mark somehow when each unit has used up its actions, whatever those actions might be. Unless you're going by stack, of course. But to me, stacks of units are a leftover from a bygone era. You need to have people be able to see what's there. And of course, that's especially true if you're using something like plastic pieces where you can't really stack them anyway. So you can have an extended way of doing things, or you can have a shoot or shunt. That is, a unit can either shoot or it can move, but not both. You can only do one. Or you can choose to let a unit do both of whatever that is that they're going to do with their two movement possibilities. Recently, I've been watching videos by the Mighty Jingles about a game called Warhammer 40K Chaos Gate Demon Hunters. And that is essentially a board game that's been kept track of by a computer. And each unit has, each of your units, in fact, each of the enemy units, has a certain number of action points. And you can take an action to move, you can take an action to shoot, you can take an action to attack, you can take an action to use the equivalent of a spell. That is in some ways an ideal for board games in general, but in this case, the computer is keeping track of it all, and it makes it very simple. So to go back to the number of units, I'm talking about 10 to 20 units, which probably means that getting hit once is not going to eliminate a unit. Now, you know, if you have flat units, you can turn them over so that the second side has the step where the unit has been damaged or wounded or whatever you want to call it, but it's still in the fight. And that, I think, works very well. And even if you're using blocks, as long as the blocks are not hidden, you continue to do that. But even with hidden blocks, your typical block game lets you have a unit from 1 to 4 strength, and you rotate the block as you lose strength or as you gain strength from reinforcements. And then the block takes care of it, but it's hidden from the enemy. Where when you turn a piece over to show the step, it's not hidden from the enemy. So there is a difference there. Again, the drawback of all this is it's time consuming. And that's another reason for the low piece counts. But the major advantage is both players, or even all players, if there's more than two, are always in the game because there's no downtime. They've got to pay attention. Now, some people would say that's not an advantage for a game. You should be able to not pay attention. But I'm not from that school. I'm from an old school. Thanks for listening.